to the Discord server, and it would be really appreciated if you pledged even a little. The YouTube algorithm recently has been picking up content on different series, and the ad revenue for different series is drastic. Like, every Goblin Slayer video will be demonetized, and every Naruto, MHA, or Dragon Ball video will make you decent money, especially Dragon Ball. That said, my Kakashi video and my Escanor introduction videos are approximately in the same view range. That said, my Kakashi video made me 12 times as much as that Escanor introduction 7 Deadly Sins video, and I'm not exaggerating at all. So yeah, patrons, very appreciated. I just really like the 7 Deadly Sins and enjoy making videos on it, which is why Bon analysis coming soon. I wanted to especially thank King Beat My Meat, Sage of Snake, Pop-Up Grumpy Welshman, Lazy Ronan, Girthy Worm Jin, Allison Stricker, JD Fincher Elin, Lord Twigos Priestess, Salve Says, Gremmin, Sergeant Malarkey, Alan Weebus, Divine Reigns, Miku, and TM Philly. Also wanted to thank the Lord Twigger Rank, Anthony Booth, Cream My Pancake, Emir Zeki Grari, Necro, Zindergarten, Cortland Ewing, Zombie Misha, Taya Kui, and Kyle the Warrior. And also thanks to the God Usopp tier, Tyler Schumacher, Dark Element, Sunny Parks, and Maurice Louis Dreyfus. Your pledges are really appreciated. Thanks a ton. Thank you everyone that watched this video. And remember to stay weird, fam. I get a lot of migraine headaches, so as a kid, when I'd get a bad one, I'd go bug my dad, and he'd say, "Oh, I have a brilliant solution. Just stub your toe really hard and you won't even be able to think about your headache," which is the most brilliant advice anyone has ever given me. To this day, I have never encountered wisdom of such magnitude. But disclaimer, just in case you guys want to try it at home, I don't suggest it. It's not really worthwhile. You're trading one physical pain for a worse physical pain, and if it's not worse, then it's not taking your mind off the original, and you're stuck with 2 physical pains. Pretty sucky. That said, there's a huge difference between physical pain and psychological pain, where arguably the latter is far, far worse. And I bring this up because according to psychologists around the world, the #1 leading cause to deriving pleasure from physical masochism is the exact logic my dad used to use to troll me with. Sad as it is, the mindset, whether subconscious or otherwise, is that enough physical pain will take their mind off their psychological pain. Whether that pain was caused by depression or some other clinical mental illness, or was caused by a painful experience, there's no better way to distract one's mind than sending it pain signals from other parts of the body. When I think anime masochist, I think Bon from the 7 Deadly Sins. Well, and I kind of think of myself too. You wouldn't believe the hate I get from my honest descriptions, but I just freaking love doing them so damn much, I just don't care. But back to the 7 Deadly Sins, if you asked most people to describe that little group in as concise of a method possible, especially in the first season, they would say, and I know this from personal experience, 7 really powerful close friends just having a great time together on their adventure. And truth be told, even though that's wrong, anywhere past the surface level, I'm always happy to hear that, because despite some of us knowing otherwise, that's exactly the vibe they're supposed to be emitting. Because while masochism is a trait attributed to Bon, one of the top symptoms of depression, or rather trying to conceal depression, is being overly jovial and rambunctious in every menial task. As a real-life example, look at Robin Williams. The guy was a walking, talking ball of hilarity. He made everyone crack up, and he was always laughing. But he was depressed to the point that he took his own life. Bon is always humming, whistling, dancing, and singing, and in fact in the manga all of his speech bubbles end with music notes, again nodding to his jovial way of speech. I was depressed for a nice block over my high school years, and it was over that time that I mastered the art of not dealing with the core of the problem and just putting up a happy facade. It kinda did serve the purpose of helping me socially, but at the same time it did not help my mental situation at all. In fact, it just worsened it, leaving it to fester. Putting up the jovial facade God is an easy way out and not a good solution in the slightest. I watched the first season of the 7 Deadly Sins a long time ago, not thinking into it because it was before my YouTube year so far. And no, I'm not avoiding analyzing Ban because Ban fully embodies the theme of the series better than any other character. So everything I've said until now is important to keep in mind for the rest of the video as well. He watched his love die before his eyes, where she could have lived, but instead chose to grant Ban immortality so he can suffer eternally, unable to do anything about it. He'll resort to masochism, but even that wears off eventually. As he grows numb to everything, he'll begin masking his pain, laughing at heartache. So that's why step 4 in his development is very similar to step 2, except this time instead of hopeful for the future, he doubts it. Adding doubt to any stressful psychological state is very not good, to the point that when King wanted to kill Ban, Ban fully accepted it with open arms, saying it was deserved. Doubtful of progression forward, in the Capital of the Dead arc, he met Elaine again in spiritual form, meaning there was some remnant of her remaining, and there may even be a way to get her back. And that's step 5 in Ban's mental development, reclaiming hope once again. Naive, unlikely hope, but it's hope nonetheless, and in that state, grasping straws is sometimes the best thing one can do. This is not a hope in his friends, the other sins, healing his wounds, but it's a hope placed in reviving his love. That's why step 6 is powerful, because that's when the goddesses told Ban they'll bend some rules and revive his love, his simultaneous source of pleasure and agony. But that's under the condition that he does the unthinkable and kills his best friend, Meliodas. While I loved Ban immensely up to this point, it's from now on that solidified him as a top-tier character. Aside from the effect this had on the narrative, making you begin to question what is good and what is bad. Are all demons bad guys while all goddesses good guys? Well, this is a pretty outrageous request. This request the goddesses made of Ban is insufferable. Ignoring Ban's psychological state for a moment, his theme in the narrative is a fascinating toggle between ultimate greed and ultimate selflessness. In his backstory, he wanted to steal the Fountain of Youth, which rumor has it is secretly made of Hashirama's jizz. Just saying. And he relentlessly tried again and again, stopping at nothing to satiate his greed and get his hands on something priceless. This is the sin of greed. But the moment he heard that taking the fountain would destroy the king's forest, he didn't even second guess himself. He immediately, after days of anguish and failed attempts, just gave up on his objective for the sake of others. This is just one instance, but this is Ban's defining personality trait past the psychological trauma and outlandish mannerisms, which makes the goddess's request so powerful. Does he commit the act of ultimate greed and kill his best friend for himself, or does he commit the act of ultimate selflessness, where he discards the one thing that could bring him happiness for the sake of his best friend? Thematically, that's why the goddess's request is amazing. Now, psychologically, it's even more amazing. Even more than the moral dilemma he found himself in, he has to try to make the right choice while suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, someone with PTSD is someone who's suffered a trauma in their life that can constantly be awakened at any moment by some form of trigger. No, not the 2018 meaning of triggered, which may or may not be utter bollocks. I mean actual psychologically triggered. If a rape victim even hears of rape, it could be extremely painful to them as an example. This request by the goddesses is more than a little reminder. This is saying you could do something about it right now. It's just, a little unthinkable cost. And for a little period of time there, it beats him. And Ban tries to kill the cat. Wow, dude, not cool. But unfortunately, making the moral decision and losing